Hello, and welcome back to Where There's a Will, There's a Burnden Way for episode 7. My name is Will Jones. I hope you've all had a good week. It's been a positive week where Bolton are concerned, so let's get right into it. Well, what's happening this week then? Well, firstly, Ivan Campo lit up every Wanderers fan Sunday evening last week following a dispute between the fans and a journalist who shall remain nameless over Campo's love for the club when he reassured Wanderers fans that he did in fact very much enjoy his time in England and at Bolton, insisting that we aren't just a club and us fans are his family. That was obviously extremely heartwarming to hear, as was a video posted by fellow fan Joey Haslam from Ivan for his son. I'm not sure how long ago that was, but nevertheless it was lovely. And I believe Ivan's birthday is today, actually, Sunday at the time of recording. So Ivan, if you're listening, I doubt it, but a big happy birthday to you. So, Monday was a relatively quiet one. It seems to be a reoccurring theme at the minute, with only Ian Everett's pre-Mansfield presser for only about the third time, with the game looking like it might actually happen on the Wednesday. Obviously off the back of a 1-0 win last week against Stevenage, I think fans and players alike were confident going into that, especially with the news that Sars will be available, as would Harry Brockbank soon as well, and along with starman Dennis Politic in the coming weeks, who looks to be back on the grass following his ACL injury in pre-season. Obviously can't wait to get him back available, though as I said last week, we really can't afford to rush him back, so obviously just when the time's right, of course. Tuesday then saw MJ Williams' red card overturned, the third in as many weeks. Again, just ridiculous that he was even sent off in the first place, and that we've had that many red cards and that as many overturned as well. But great to have him back available for selection nevertheless, following a promising opening 70 minutes that he had against Stevenage. So Wednesday was of course then game day, with an earlier kick-off time to usual of about 5pm, 5pm to be exact, of course, to play Mansfield, and to give them the best chance of getting the game on, with the weather due to turn later that evening. Things were looking up, and the game thankfully finally was on. 2 changes were made to the lineup against Stevenage by Ian Everett, with Kieran Lee and Lloyd Isgrove both returning to the side in place of George Thomason and Nathan Delfonso. The pitch did look a mess from the off, but we muddled through, with the scare being the first notable event of the game. Matt Giltz going down clutching his back after landing awkwardly. Luckily Matt was fine, but hopefully we're seen to be a wake-up call by Ian Everett to have a backup keeper on the bench in future. But yeah, not long after that we went behind through unfortunately a Giltz mistake, before Mansfield then doubled their lead, with Wanderers looking weak at the back, to be honest, and dead and buried where the scoreline was concerned. But Declan John then replied with what's commonly been labelled as a fluke goal, and what looked like his cross ended up in the back of the net, before his corner was then turned home by a Mansfield defender not long after for the leveller. And for a change, not a man down, we then did have the confidence to go on and win the game, as a great strike from Arthur Ganua in the dying embers was enough to secure the 3 points late on, and in dramatic fashion, of course. It was a brilliant result by all accounts, just not necessarily a pleasant fashion in which we did it, but obviously can't complain that we've won despite going 2 behind first. But it was obviously a big 3 points, big enough to see us into the top half of the table too, since the very early stages of the season. So very happy with that one. Thursday was obviously a quiet one in the aftermath of the previous evening's drama at Mansfield, but it did see Darren Drysdale relieved of his duties as the referee for this Saturday's game just gone against Southend following an incident in midweek, a strange one which appeared to show the referee square up to Ipswich midfielder Alan Judge during a disagreement on the field. Quite lucky really that he'd lost his temper with a player a game later, that he hadn't lost his temper with a player a game later. Obviously with the run of poor officiating we've had, I think there would have been another level of meltdown going on, so quite thankful for that one really. But no, in all seriousness, I think Darren shouldn't be suspended or fined for his actions, especially having already apologised. I don't even think there was a necessity for that really, in my opinion. Referees get some real grief. I'm guilty of it myself back when we could watch matches live as a players, but it doesn't mean it's right. Obviously referees are bound to lose their cool. They tend not to show it, but eventually it will happen, as it happened with Darren. I don't recall Alan Judge actually apologising for his role in it all, which makes me think even worse of the higher powers at this point, to be honest. It's ridiculous how unprofessional they are, but I think I should probably stop myself there before I say something I shouldn't. Anyway, Friday saw Evo speak to the press once again ahead of the trip to Southend at weekend. He was in a jovial mood and spoke confidently going into the game following the 3-0 win at home against the same side back in November. And obviously, fortunately, he was right to be, which we'll get on to now. So obviously Saturday, match day, Southend away. We went there looking for another 3 points, a massive opportunity for another win, with them not being in the best of form and at the bottom end of the table, and so it proved to be. So on a sunny day in Southend, Wanderers snatched all 3 points, which I'll talk you through now. So it was obviously just one change to the side from Wednesday's game at Mansfield, as Nathan Delfonso came in for Lloyd Isgrove. No sub-keeper to be seen, alarmingly, but it was a risk that seemed to be worth taking, as Sars came back into the side, taking the extra place on the bench, with Sean Miller also returning to action from the bench, and what an impact he would go on to have. But yeah, it was a relatively dreary opening 45 actually, with neither side looking particularly impressive, as they didn't for the first 20 minutes or so of the second as well. But Wanderers made all the changes and quickly came to life and looked most likely to nick it late on, and so they did, with subs Sars and Sean Miller combining to bundle the ball over the line with a deflected Sars effort ricocheting up into the air and beyond the reach of the keeper, luckily, as it dropped back down off the bar, straight into the path of the awaiting Sean Miller, who pounced and hit a half volley downwards, beating the keeper, and the ball flew underneath his preempted dive to his right, and luckily that was enough to earn Wanderers the win in Essex. What a run we're on. Obviously up to 10th now, climbing with the playoffs well in reach, actually. Looking far more of a possibility than they did just a week or so ago. So yeah, really encouraged by what I've seen this week. A great week overall in terms of what's been going on at Bolton Wanderers. Couldn't be happier, and on to next week. So anyway, I think that's enough waffle, I think, for me for another week. So thank you very much for tuning in to episode 7 of Where There's a Will, There's a Burnden Way. You can subscribe, like, comment, share wherever you're listening to me on, and you can tweet me at WTAWTABW or on WIL1J for content-based queries, or you can email me on WTAWTABW@gmail.com for all business inquiries. So thank you very much for listening to episode 7 of Where There's a Will, There's a Burnden Way, and I'll catch you next week on Sunday the 28th of February for episode 8. Bye now.